Hello, LinkedIn makers and movers. Our guest today has been a welcome addition to my feed over the past year. She landed on my radar, I think, in the summer of 2024, popping up on LinkedIn with spicy takes on B2B marketing, especially around landing page conversion. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about none other than Tas Bober, the founder of ScoreLab. But before I pass her the mic, let's dig into her background a little bit. She got her start in journalism and media. She wrote for an online magazine in Thailand and then produced content for a news channel in Iowa. Big world of a difference. While at the news channel, she pivoted into digital marketing, creating digital products for advertisers, diving deep into measurement analytics. She then pivoted into B2B, starting with Mercer, a massive HR services firm where she managed over 400 client websites. From there, she bumped into SaaS, leading digital marketing for brands like Plex in the manufacturing vertical, Telium, and customer data, where she doubled down on conversion strategy. And about 2 years ago, she went out on her own. At first, she was doing all sorts of digital marketing work, but narrowed it down and recently rebranded to the ScoreLab and focuses exclusively on helping SaaS brands improving landing page conversion. And around that same time, she also went from sporadic LinkedIn posting to about an almost daily presence. And it seems like she never looked back. Her posts are informal, they're witty, they're bold. They focus on obviously B2B marketing, and landing pages and the occasional dash of personal life, especially parenting, which I appreciate, going through some stuff. And it's working. Her content gets really great engagement. She's approaching 20,000 followers and her business is thriving. One last thing, she recently launched a podcast called Notorious B2B with Tim Davidson of LinkedIn fruit cutting fame, part Saturday Night Live, part TMZ, but for B2B. And it's been a hit on the feed. I enjoy it myself. If all of that is not the definition of LinkedIn famous, I don't know what is. So let's give a big LinkedIn famous welcome to Tas Bober. Welcome to the LinkedIn Famous Podcast, the show where we get real about what it takes to build a personal brand on LinkedIn that gets real business results. We're talking about driving revenue from a personal LinkedIn profile by sharing real and authentic stories and points of view. I am Brad Zomick, your host and the founder of Spectrumer, a personal brand consultancy that helps founders and executives get LinkedIn famous. Join me for unfiltered conversations from the trenches of LinkedIn. We'll meet CEOs, go-to-market executives, subject matter experts, and company employees with blockbuster LinkedIn results. We'll unpack strategy and leave you with tactical advice to grow your personal brand and demand for your company's products and services. All right, LinkedIn hustlers, it's time to level up.
Yay! Should we do an applause? That was very good. I love when I get on a podcast and they do the intro for me because you like to hear what someone else's perception is or what they come up with based on what they find out on the internet, about you. You're like, oh God, what are they going to bring back? Like a 2009 Facebook memory? Like, please don't talk about the album I posted with my college friends. But thank you for that. That was great. I love that. It was great.
Well, thank you. A lot of people at podcasts, you have to do the research on the person before they come on. And then you
Yeah.
ask them, like, tell me about yourself. What's the point? They already just spent like half an hour, like, stalking them on LinkedIn.
That's right.
Is there anything about your background that you want to double click on?
No, I think the one piece was the first time I was head of digital was actually for the Economic Development Organization for the state of Ohio, which was insane because our targets were like trying to get Intel to come set up shop in Ohio, in Columbus, Ohio, or Facebook, and all these big companies to come here and set up either headquarters or, branches here. And so if you think about the sales cycle there, they could be years long because you're trying to get them to come in here. You're trying to help them find like the right site, building out places, promising jobs. So that was probably the most impactful, but you want to talk about long B2B sales cycles. It's probably still some work I did there 5 years ago is probably still working now, making its way to closed one deal.
Yes, a government notoriously long, worse than enterprise sales cycle.
Yeah.
So tell us something about yourself that the audience couldn't learn about you from your LinkedIn presence.
Ooh. Oh my gosh. There's so much. I'm like, where do I even start? Okay. I've lived in like 7 cities across 3 countries. I'm actually half and half myself, a mutt. I'm half Indian, half Thai, lived in both countries. Went to school in Thailand. Yeah, in Thailand, begrudgingly, hence where I started my kind of career. I was too young. I graduated from high school at 16. My mom's like, I'm not sending my 16-year-old daughter to the US by herself. That would be a shark attack. Um, finally moved here, worked for the WHO NBC TV station out in Iowa, which was great. Was an AE for 3 years. So I actually
Ooh,
did
selling.
sales for 3 years. Yeah, it was hardest job ever. So I was like, well, I need to go back to marketing. This is way too hard. Love that. And what else would you not know about me? Oh, I have been recently, I've only ever brought it up once, but um, sometimes when people are like, what do you want to plug? You know? And I'm like, I have a Spotify playlist of songs that I've been collecting since 2014. You can like live my life alongside me from 2014. If you like a lot of ratchet hip hop, give that playlist a listen while you're working out or hanging out. And yeah, it's just TAS.
We will link that in the show notes. I do ask people what they want to plug at the end. You can
I have
throw that
other
in
stuff
there.
to plug too, but this is like my new thing to plug.
Awesome. So let's get into your LinkedIn journey. And you started posting around the time you went out on your own. What was the story behind that
Yeah.
journey? Before that, May or April 2023, you posted every once in a while, maybe once a month, maybe 3 month gap. And what
Yeah.
were some of the things going through your head at that time?
LinkedIn was not on my radar whatsoever. And the backstory is I was working in house, very busy, 50, 60 hours a week. I have 2 kids and worked at a startup, head of digital and website there, very busy, no time for anything else, not even myself, let alone posting on any platform. But then I crashed and burned hard. I was very burnt out. And at that point decided I need to do some healing for myself, which meant also just taking breaks. So I'm like, what is a creative project that I can get into? And that's when my daughter kind of entered the picture where, she's a very temperamentally sensitive child. And I'm like, there's nothing medically wrong with her, but I wish that I had a resource as a parent of a sensitive child of like how to handle a lot of the crying and, the tantrums and things like
Me
that
too.
are not medically induced. Like she doesn't have anything wrong with her medically. She is just a sensitive child. And small things like tags on her clothes would bother her, but she could not communicate that. You're not going to find that in a kid's book, right? It's like, what's bothering my kids? Like, is she fed? Is she dry? Like, yeah, she's all of those things. What else could it be? And so I was like, okay, maybe I should do this. So I planned out this entire podcast. I had 70 topics that I wanted to cover. The first
Wow.
2 episodes were written. I had the intro script. I had the thumbnail made. Like everything was done. I left the marketing part to the end because I'm like, how hard could it be? I'm a career marketer. Like, how hard could it be to market a podcast? Whatever. Turns out it's very hard. So I ended up looking it up and it said, well, a podcast is a little bit different from other marketing because it is very audience based and you don't just like show up. You have to go and kind of create an audience elsewhere and then bring them over. So like a house party, they're not going to just show up to the creepy lady's house that they don't know. You kind of got to go mingle, make a name for yourself, have people like and trust you, and then come over. I was like, okay, that makes sense. So they said, well, one of the best ways to do this is to start posting organically. And I went to Twitter and I had like 1.5 followers. So I was like, I'm not going to do that. I went to LinkedIn and I had 1,200 connections. And I was like, this is great. But it would be weird if I came out the gate just talking about parenting stuff. My boss is going to be like, what is going on? Are you okay? So I just started posting kind of self-development stuff. And so the first one I did was like how I changed my life in a single quarter. And I had done all of these things kind of helping with the burnout. So I was reading books. I was waking up at 5 a.m. I was working out, like all of these different things. And it got like 100 likes, my first post. I was like, what? But it's all people who know me. And I was sharing something a little bit personal about my life. And that dopamine hit happened. And I was like, oh. So then it was more experimental where I was trying to learn the platform rather than like really focus on what the theme or the content was. I was just trying to understand can I do this? Can I build this? And I was going through the steps and using myself as a guinea pig. And then I went to YouTube and I was trying to search like how to write on LinkedIn and like how to grow followers and like all of this stuff. And then that's when I found like Nicolas Cage, Dickie Bush, and their interview with Justin Welch. So like all these big dogs, right? And I had no idea who they are. Like, no idea. Listen to this interview and I'm like, oh, this is like some hardcore stuff. Like this is people do this stuff all the time. So I kind of started to learn how to write on LinkedIn. I even took the Ship 30 for 30 like course.
Oh,
Like,
wow. Okay, good.
yeah, I did.
Nicholas Cole, not
Oh,
Nicholas
Nicholas.
Cage.
Oh, sorry, not Nicholas Cage.
He
I'm
makes
so
some
sorry.
good movies.
I'm so sorry, Nicholas Cage. Nicholas Cole. Yeah, Nicholas Cole, Dickie Bush. Listen to their podcast for a little bit. Obviously, Justin Welch is like the automatic person who comes into the picture. So kind of like listen to the LinkedIn bros. They had a lot of like cool free resources on YouTube and stuff. And then I actually ended up taking their cohort and met some cool people there. So just learning to write for the platform because I'm a digital marketer and website marketer by trade. So for me, it was just this is how I would learn a new channel. That's just how I would go when I was trying to learn paid. That's what I did. When I was trying to learn about websites, that's what I did. So I just approached it scientifically and strategically that way, learned to write and started to like experiment with hooks and things like that. And so I would post and things were fine. Everything was good. But then I slowly started like expanding and meeting people too, people DMing me saying they like my stuff and whatever. And all this time I'm working in-house. And so I don't think my company really liked it that I was doing it, even though I wasn't saying anything crazy or whatever. But I happened to start meeting people through the platform and just having a few networking calls a week. And so it just really started as a slow burn, no intention of doing anything other than it being a creative exercise. So that's kind of how it started.
Interesting. And you were just having fun,
Yeah.
getting the ideas out of your head. Was there any challenging aspects to that? Did it click right away or things you had to work through?
Well, the biggest obstacle being I don't know how happy my company was that I was
Mhm.
posting. And I wasn't even saying anything bad, but I perhaps I wasn't doing the traditional, like, I'm just going to make my profile a walking billboard for my company and, their latest event or their latest whatever, which is what I was doing before that. And then not getting much feedback because that's literally what everybody who does not post on LinkedIn does is just like post company updates and,
Yep.
kind of lick the
Rah
boots
rah.
of whoever you're working for at the time. It was just not something I thought of really. I remember when one of my posts got picked up by LinkedIn News
Oh, cool.
and got circulated. And our head of PR in the team meeting, we always did this like shout outs segment in our team meetings. So there's 30 of us on here. We get to the shout out segment and the head of PR goes, shout out to Tas for her LinkedIn post getting picked up by LinkedIn News and they're circulating it. Like, this is so great for us. And like, obviously, she works here. And my tagline at the time also said, director of digital and web at Telium and started circulating this. And she was like, this is going to be great for the company. And everybody was like, yeah, clapping and stuff. And my bosses were like, and that was the first time I realized, oh, they may not like this. But at the same time, there was so much, I was having fun and a lot of that healing was happening. I wasn't doing it during work hours. I was very respectful of the boundaries, but now I wasn't giving my after work hours to my job either. And I don't know if that also made it kind of tricky for them. It's like, oh, she's not going above and beyond anymore, whatever that is. And so yeah, that was kind of like the first obstacle I ran into.
Mhm.
But then as I started expanding my network, started writing about stuff, people started reaching out to me going, dude, you have all this marketing experience. Why aren't you talking about marketing? God, I'm so burnt out. But then I was like, okay, I'm going to experiment. So I started sharing more digital and website stuff, things that I was seeing, experiencing. And that's when the first trajectory of growth started happening because they were like, oh, here's this expert on digital and website sharing her knowledge, like it's going good. And the epiphany for me happened where I was like, oh, people can actually monetize things on LinkedIn, had no idea, was companies were starting to reach out to me for jobs and reaching out to me for consulting work. And I was like, oh, I didn't even know this was a thing. And I'm like, no, I have a full-time job. I'm good, but I'll keep this in mind for the future. And then what ended up happening was my company wasn't doing very well. They got rid of a lot of mid-level management people. It was probably a good strategic move for them. They didn't like I was posting, so they were like, okay, we'll just add tasks to the list. Cool, whatever. So July 2023, that happened. And at that point, I'd only been posting since March 2023. So March, April, May, June, July. So like in 5 months, a lot was happening. Like I'd met tons of people. I'd had companies reach out to me for stuff. And I felt like, okay, if I do go through a layoff, like I feel like I have some options. So it didn't feel terrible. So when it did happen, I took a week off. And then the following week, was like LLC was created, everything was done. And I just said, hey, I'm going out on my own. I'm offering like digital and website consulting. Like it's on, but it was so much easier than to talk about the things that I wanted to talk about and be very open because I wasn't handcuffed anymore. And that's then the second wave of like kind of growth that happened. And again, on the unintentional, I guess, discovery that I can be a little unhinged on LinkedIn, but now that has become my entire brand as like the funny, hilarious purple landing page lady on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that, and maybe broadly, or almost the unhinging of LinkedIn, because something's happening here,
Yeah.
right? I'm curious what you see is going on, because lately, yeah, what kind of cuts through the feed is kooky, and
Hmm.
and it's either highly controversial or like off the wall. What's your take on why that's happening?
It's funny because I've seen so many opinions on this. So I'm like, is this my opinion anymore? Or is it just like, a culmination of all the opinions that I've seen? There's a part of me that's like, you do you, bro. If this is your thing, that's fine. I think ultimately it depends on what your goals are. Could I post one-liners and meme content every day? Absolutely. But one, I'm also running a business. And so that is something I have to consider is I'm more in the genre of like edutainment. So I would rather give you something tactical and be funny a little bit in there. Or with Notorious B2B, which is purely a fun project, I'll post about that like once a week or maybe twice. But then I also want to be able to provide someone value by giving them like landing page advice, or marketing advice, and stuff like that. For the people who are like posting meme content every day, or the tweet style content, that's becoming a big thing on LinkedIn now. It's also called weird LinkedIn. Shout out to Nick Power, who's like taken the feed by storm. Sometimes you have to ask yourself like, okay, if your end game is just I have a job, I have financial means, I'm just here to like mess around, have fun, meet people, build a network, that kind of stuff, cool, totally your prerogative. But if you have this other thing where it's like, okay, it's my livelihood, can I envision a brand partnering with me for what? For me to put out a tweet? Can I envision a company buying from me? What are they buying? Because I don't really share a lot of marketing advice necessarily, or whatever your expertise is, you're not sharing a lot of that. But people like you. Is that enough to like monetize it? Not that I'm there to I mean, I say a lot of unhinged stuff and I'm like, well, people either like me or they don't like me. So I think ultimately that's the question to ask. So if you're just there, you have a job, you're just having fun, whatever, cool. I'd mess around all day long if that was the case too. But I try to do a good, healthy mix of what that is. Ultimately, I would like to just be like talent. Like media. I mean, I worked in media for like, the first half of my career. And so it's like, I wouldn't mind just being talent. I can do it. I like it. I like talking on podcasts. I like creating content. I like working with brands. So if that's where it goes, cool. But I'm also really good at landing pages. So if you want to hire me for that, you can do that too.
I like that approach.
Yeah, it just has to be like something that's a little more natural to you. Some people are just really kooky and maybe they are like really nerdy. They're like into Pokemon and that becomes like part of your persona, is that you're just this person that talks about that. For me, I love rap music. And so like I make a lot of weird Kendrick Lamar references in my posts, and you kind of either get it or you don't get it. And I like to troll people in the comment section and not always leave insightful comments because I'm like, people know I'm not just a complete bozo. Like they go to my posts and I share a lot of I call it the LinkedIn mullet, where it's like, it's all business in my posts mostly. And then it's party in the back with the comments. That's where I have fun.
Ah, I like that. The
So yeah,
LinkedIn mullet.
yeah,
I'm searching for my LinkedIn mullet.
there you go.
How do you approach your content today? Do you have any sort of
I try.
system in place, or how do you keep the train on the track? 'Cause I will say a lot of people, like, once you start it, it's not exactly something. Yeah, I mean, especially if you're trying to grow a business,
Yeah.
I'm just going to take a month off and come back, and
Yeah.
yeah, or a week even. An
The
awareness
real
game.
answer is that I don't actually have a full blown system. Sometimes it is a thing where I have two young kids, okay?
Mhm.
Almost 6 and almost 3. And the reality is it's busy in my household. I only work 3 days a week. And what I mean by that is I have childcare 3 days a week. So I have to shove all my meetings, all my podcasts, my content creation if I don't want to do it in the evenings, all of those things within this 3-day period, along with client delivery, client call, all of those things, right? Guess what gets put on the back burner? It's the stuff that like I have to work on for myself, for my business. I will always prioritize meeting with other people, my clients, that kind of stuff. So the honest truth is, it's a good week when I have 2 posts scheduled in advance or even have something like I don't have something for tomorrow right now. We'll see. I'm going to edit one for a client. Maybe that one will go tomorrow. I don't know. We'll see. It just really depends on my schedule. I typically aim for like 5 times a week and I try to come up with a system. So I use like a little like backstage thing that I have in Coda where I try to plan my content. And so this backstage thing, I have like a calendar basically, and I get to look at it and I'm like, okay, can I plan out my weeks? Because this is my ideal state. And so at this stage, after posting for what, almost 2 years, a little over 2 years, I have 300 pieces of content, if not more. And people don't remember what you posted 6 months ago. I will go back to a post. I will see one of my friends comment on it, and then I will repost the exact same post. And that person will comment on it like, oh my God, this blew my mind. I'm like, yeah, I did 6 months ago too. Just FYI. Like, I love to call them out and just make them feel bad about it. But so maybe a couple of times a week, I'll do a repost of something that I've done and put in a lot of work for a year ago or 6 months ago, or I'll do an update on an old post like, hey, I posted this back in 2023. Here's how I've changed my viewpoint on it. So I do something like that. On the weekends, it's really hard for me because I have my kids. And so I usually try to do polls on Saturday. So I'll just ask people for their feedback and then create a post the following week on the previous week's poll and the results that came from that as like kind of feedback or what they think about it. And then Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays are kind of my prime time ones where I try to post something new on those days because those are the days that I've seen at least that people are more invested in reading the content. They're kind of mid work week and trying to escape in some spaces. But so yeah, that is my ideal world and my system. Does it work like that? No. Like last Saturday, I was like, I don't have a poll, but I was like, you know what I do have? A wad of freaking napkins in my pocket. Why do I have this wad of napkins? Oh, because I'm a parent. Hey, tell me you're a parent without telling me. You have a wad of napkins in your pocket. You go, your turn. And people were like, all of these things, right? Like you just live on a sea of crumbs, or like, there's toys in your in your purse, and you're stepping on Legos all the time. So sometimes it is nice to show people who you are as a person, because then they know, well, yeah, this is not AI. This is not a robot that's just continuously trying to sell to me. This is a person who is just living a regular life. And yes, she has a business, but she's also funny and she's human. And I could hang out with her on Sunday at a barbecue or whatever. You know what I mean? And that's
I,
kind of my vibe.
I like that. The top of the funnel starts with you on LinkedIn. Couple of questions in there.
Yeah.
Coda, is that a project management tool like Asana or something like that?
It's a Notion competitor, but it's
Okay.
a little more robust than Notion is. And I used to use Notion, but I'm also cheap. And so I hit the 1,000 row very quickly. But Coda's plans basically allow you to use, if you're a single doc maker, they do it by seat. And so they give you unlimited if you're just a single doc user. But if you want to add a team member, that's when you start paying. So I've just
Okay.
been using it forever. I use it for all my resource hub stuff, which is an organization of all of my posts in this document by category. because I could not, LinkedIn archiving is terrible. Like if I
Yeah.
want to go back and try to find a post, I have to keep scrolling. So I actually put all of them in this thing just for my reference. And I was like, screw it. I'm just going to make this public. And then I put it out there and I have like 2,200 marketers who've downloaded it and like 5,000 views of it. So they keep coming back to it to look at it and look at all landing page content and everything else.
Oh, so your portfolio is in there too.
All my posts.
Wow. Cool. The other thing I wanted to ask you about is polls. And it's one of those features of LinkedIn that is not commonly used. Do you
Yeah.
think there's like a critical mass of followers where it makes sense to start using it? Because I don't know. I think occasionally I've tried to put one out there. I haven't tried in a while, but sometimes you just get crickets, like nobody actually engages with it.
I had a friend of mine, Eric Holland, on LinkedIn, who was like, he's like, I hate polls. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love them. He's like, that's because you get like 300 to 600 responses on yours. I put a poll out and I get 2, and I can't do anything with it. And I think the biggest thing is to strategically ask questions. So sometimes, well, most times, my questions are almost trick questions where it's like, hey, do you think the purpose of a landing page is to convert? Oh, hell yes. Everyone's going to say yes because that is the conception in the market. Well, guess what I'm going to do? Write a post next week about how conversions are a dumb metric to measure landing pages on, right? But then sometimes it's also curiosity where I'm like, hey, what annoys you the most about websites? Is it no pricing, irrelevant imagery, buzzwordy copy? And the crazy thing was, I thought overwhelmingly it would be no pricing. And it still won, but by very small percentage. The actual second one was no relevant imagery. And I'm like, whoa. So I did this whole post about people not liking imagery and why. Most of us use stock images, what types of images you should use. So it gave me this content idea to expand on. And that's kind of what I use it for. I did another one the other day that was a trap. And it was like, how many touch points do you think it takes before someone becomes a qualified lead? And people were arguing. And it was great. But I got
Yeah.
630 responses in that one. Usually my polls are like somewhere between 200 and 300. Very fiery topic.
And people are in the comments like elaborating as well.
Yes. I had 630 votes and then a bunch of people arguing in the comments about like, well, it depends. It depends on where the funnel they are and blah, blah, blah. Like all of the stuff. And I was just like, have at it, bros. We'll talk about this next week.
So you mentioned you get a lot of engagement. How do you handle commenting on your own stuff and other people? Do you make dedicated time for it?
Yeah, I mean, I do. I definitely think that one of the keys on LinkedIn, I tell my husband all the time, who is just now starting, he's trying, he's posting out there, and he's starting to do it consistently. Like, okay, he'll post 3 times a week. But I told him, I'm like, honestly, the key to truly like deep engagement on LinkedIn, because you can see I have a smaller following than some other people, but if you look at the engagement rate, like people have made comments about the number of comments I will get. And the reason for that is because of one word, and that is reciprocity. So I spend a lot of time supporting people without an agenda. So whether it's commenting on their posts, meeting people, I have 3 coffee chats a week. Whether this person can buy from me, and that's not a criteria of mine. If you say, hey, Tas, I really love your stuff. I would love to grab coffee sometime. I'm working through XYZ, whatever. I'll say, cool. Hey, I'm pretty booked out the next couple of weeks, but why don't you find something the week of this? And that's how I keep my 3 a week. And it's just spending that time then really doing the one-on-one thing where I'm giving them my undivided attention and talking to them about their problems, whether they're in-house or they're out and they want to start doing, maybe they want to post on LinkedIn, maybe they want to start a business, maybe they're struggling with like stakeholder management in-house, whatever that is, from listening to my podcasts or seeing some of my posts and they want to talk about it. Cool. And that's the same thing with podcasts. People will reach, my husband just asked me this morning, he's like, do you ever like screen the podcasts that you get on? I'm like, no. And he's like, shouldn't you? And I'm like, no, I don't give a crap if you have 1 follower, 1 listener, or you have 10,000 listeners. I like talking to people. I like coming on. And yeah, I was like the first guest on this one podcast, actually two now, because I'm like, I don't care. I'm here. I love to help people and be there and genuinely like to be kind. And I think that helps, you know?
Yeah, well, I appreciate you being here,
Yeah,
sharing your insights and perspective. I have more than one follower, I think. um,
good.
talk about impact, and you've already covered some of the impact. You have a lot of engagement, you know, have grown your business off of LinkedIn. Were there any surprising or unexpected impacts of investing here?
Uh, yes. I mean, outside of now, I have lots and lots of friends, even more so than my real life friends. Some of them are better than my real life friends too. Just kidding. Love you all. I honestly, I did a lot of healing to, I think when you're in house, like you don't always get the validation for your ideas and who you are. I feel like a lot of things that I was punished for either as a child or in work environments where it's like she's too loud, she's challenging the status quo, she always wants to do stuff that's a little bit outside of the norm and the box, and we just need her to follow orders. And she's a little bit too loud or she's too boisterous. All of these things, like she's too ratchet, she's a little bit unhinged, all the things that people have disliked about me or complained about me, I feel like I got a lot of validation for those things by just being myself on LinkedIn. And what that ended up doing was just helped heal a lot of those insecurities of like imposter syndrome. And I go on there and I'm like, I don't know everything. I could write a post about this thing today. And then 2 weeks later, I'll be proven wrong and I'll post about how I was wrong about it. Like, I don't care. And I think the biggest thing is just the permission to be imperfect. And people like that. They like people who are real and not super buttoned up and not super scripted. And I used to freak out. Like my first two podcasts, I memorized every question and every answer. And then I would try to recall exactly what I had written down or try to read it. And it was terrible. And now it's like every time I talk on a podcast, they're like, listen, we'll edit anything out that you do. I'm like, no, screw it. Leave it in there. I want you to leave it in there. If I mess up, leave it in there because I want people to know you can mess up and still get back up and it's okay. So LinkedIn gave me a lot of validation there, but I feel like I've healed a lot of that. The burnout thing too, it's given me a lot of ability to lead a life around the life part of work-life balance. So yeah, there's a lot of benefits. And like some of my now best friends I've met through the platform that I talk to every day, not about work stuff, not about LinkedIn stuff, like literally just like you would as friends. And so I'm very, very grateful for that. I seriously, it's changed my life in many, many ways.
That's awesome. So you're admittedly a little unhinged on LinkedIn.
Yes.
Have you ever had any backlash on a post or criticism, and how do you handle that?
The only time I don't get a lot of like people are again, I think that's the one good part about LinkedIn as a platform is that you can't hide behind a username or anonymity, right? Like unlike Twitter or Reddit or whatever. I refuse to call Twitter X, by the way. But unlike the other ones that have like these usernames and people are really mean and stuff, I feel like we don't get as much of that here. People might challenge an opinion and things like that. But for the most part, people stay pretty kosher. Or maybe there's a whole side of LinkedIn like I'm not part of, but at least in my little B2B marketing world, people are generally pretty respectful. I haven't had a lot of crazy things. I think there's going to be a lot more risk factor with my new show just because we're going to be talking about controversial things. I've seen some people like get defensive about some of the things that we've covered, and I get it. So that's going to be a fine line I have to walk. There have been a couple of instances, one being where someone did like a public teardown of me, and I didn't even need to say anything. So many people came to my rescue on that post, and they were like, dude, what are you doing? You cannot plaster a woman's face on this platform and talk about like how she could be doing all of these things better because
Crazy.
you want to sell to her. It was just like so insane. And if you want to know more details about that, I do cover it in like the second episode or something on Notorious B2B in depth. We show the post and everything. So just like some weird stuff like that. I've gotten challenged on some perspectives, which is fine. I'm completely fine with being challenged. I just don't like any of the AI commenting. I have nothing to say to that. So I'm like, don't waste your time doing that. I'd rather you challenge me and pick a fight than leave some generic thing that I can't respond to.
All right. Oh, you mentioned AI commenting. Maybe that's
Yeah.
something. So I have a little lightning round to round out
Ooh,
the episode.
okay.
And some people mentioned that in one of the questions. These are rapid fire. You can elaborate, as much as you want.
Okay.
But we'll start with, what advice do you give to someone who wants to start building their LinkedIn presence today? Just getting started. Or maybe it's your husband. What did you tell him?
Again, going back to reciprocity. So, as much as you are posting on the feed, reach out to people. In the beginning, I used to send connection requests to people that I thought were really interesting. I used to like find people in my niche, either ones who were a few steps ahead of me or people in B2B marketing, reach out to them, tell them that I liked their stuff, just like treat people with kindness, have a lot of calls and be proactive in that approach. Now it's kind of like the other way around where people reach out to me, but I almost always say yes. People will most likely say yes too. So you should do that. Be proactive and actually try to, it's a social platform, like have a relationship, go network, like actually network, not just posting and then getting mad when no one shows up for you and they're like, they don't even know who you are. So reciprocity always first.
I like that. Do you have that same approach to prospecting?
It's all inbound at this time. So I don't do any outbound. Not that I'm against it. I just don't need to at this stage. I would maybe later if we had to expand, but even then I'm just not a full on as a person who was in sales, I'm just a very soft sell person. So I would not do that. I'd rather lead with value than lead with the sales. So that way, I don't do a lot of that, but the reciprocity thing is so important. Like you can build an entirely successful business and never post a single time. All the copywriting partners that I have found for my business who help me with my client work, who I pay consistently, they all like out of them only one posts. And three of them I just found because they were in the DMs. I would say in priority order, building the relationships one on one way over even just posting on LinkedIn.
Got it. Are you an introvert or an extrovert?
I'm like a 99% extrovert or something. I just took the Myers-Briggs again the other day, and I'm pretty sure it's like 90% something or the other. Yeah, it's something insane.
Cool. I will say, having talked to a bunch of people on here who have strong presence like yourself, you never know.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
Yeah. Like
yeah.
Tim Davidson, Mr. Fruit Cutting Guy, crazy shirts on
Yeah, yeah,
LinkedIn
yeah.
video, introvert.
Yeah, yeah. I met him at the X5 event, and he had told me that. I was
Yeah,
surprised to hear that because
yeah, me
he's
too.
so off the wall. What's a LinkedIn trend that you wish would go away?
Oh yeah, the AI commenting. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I can't handle it. It's like, and I can tell immediately because the thing is, I spend a lot of time getting to know people one on one. So when I see a friend of mine who I'm used to and they are speaking in a specific voice and then suddenly that changes and it's more of a generic voice, I'm the person who will reply to almost every comment on my post. If I don't reply to your comment, it's because I have a problem with it. And more than likely, the problem is that it is something generic that I can't respond to and or it was written by AI. So please stop it. It's not doing anything. It like literally does not do anything. So I have actually sent friends messages saying, "Did you use AI to comment on my post with this?" And they're like, "Shit, no, but I'm using a VA or or yeah, I'm using this tool. I've gotten really good responses from it." I'm like, "What good response have you gotten from it? What results specifically have you gotten from it?" And I'm like, the fact that I'm even calling it out should give you a big signal that other people are also seeing this and this is not working for you.
Clearly, you hate AI commenting. What do you hate more, AI commenting or comment for my
Oh,
ebook?
asset. Oh my God. I don't like either one, but if I had to choose, I still hate the AI commenting because it just gives me nothing to work with. At least the gating thing, it's like, okay, you somewhat put in an effort into this post and said you spent 7,200 hours or whatever, AKA made AI do all your research for you. Like, okay, cool. You're like attempting something, but I can't with the AI I have not, nothing paralyzes me more. My mom has been trying her whole life to get me to shut up and all it took was an AI comment. I should tell her. All she has to, every time I say something, she should just be like, agree. And I'm like, I don't know what I should say about this.
It's a problem. Maybe they'll fix it. I did recently see a post. I don't know if it's true. This is like a post from the guy Yasmin Ali, one of the
Yes.
super creators, and he
Mhm.
actually made a post the other day that LinkedIn is actually throttling people who comment too much in too little time. I haven't seen any of that, but I only heard one person talk about it. Maybe it's coming.
Maybe. And if that's the case, I'm probably going to get kicked out because I, on average, will leave somewhere between 250 and 300 comments a week.
I don't think that's that much. It's 50 a day or
Yeah, I mean, it's quite a bit, but like, I don't know what they're flagging as automation. I don't have like dedicated times there. You know how people are like, I will work on LinkedIn for 1 hour in the mornings or whatever. I'm like, I kind of check it as I go and like we'll see something and comment or whatever. So maybe the frequency throughout the day, they're probably not going to flag, but I do leave a lot of comments. You know what I do get though, that could actually get me kicked out? I always get the little pop up that says, are you sure you want to post this potentially offensive comment? I'm like, "Well, I don't say anything in there. And it's like the word noob. And then they get all up in arms about it. You know, I'm like, and I
I haven't
always
seen
say,
that.
yes,
Yeah.
post it anyway. So if I'm going to get kicked off, it'll be probably for something like that.
Yeah, it's funny on the AI commenting. I gotta think there's some detection that they can see that they don't cut and paste,
Yeah.
like immediate cut and put the content in there, publish in a second or less. Then they know, and then the person did 30 of those in 30 seconds. I think it's
Yeah.
easy for
Yeah.
them to
I mean,
detect that.
LinkedIn is cracking down on automation. I know that. So if you're actually using automation, that would be an issue. I would imagine that they would have a way for for them to detect whether you're doing it through automation versus like naturally. Even as fast as I am, I don't know if I could leave that many comments that quickly. I still do a little. They're probably looking at like predictive patterns, like hover patterns. You're reading a little bit of a post, you hit comment, then you go
Yeah.
whatever. They probably are tracking a lot of that versus like comment, publish, comment, post, comment, post. They're probably looking for those like rapid actions.
I agree. And honestly, I kind of wonder if they would fix it because you think about it this way, they're looking for more ways to surface more ads
Hmm.
and all those like commenting playbooks. You see how some people show up in your feed. So and so commented on
Yes.
so and so's posts, but
Yeah.
well, I guess we'll see. They want more people to post so they can serve up more ads. So anything that allows them to serve more ads, they're all for.
Yeah.
So
That's their
they love creators. If you were running LinkedIn for a day, what is the first thing that would change?
Well, they changed the most annoying thing, which I really appreciate, which is the scheduling function to be able to modify it.
Well, they finally changed that.
Yeah, so you can
Yeah.
modify the scheduled post to whatever time, which is great, like 15-minute intervals. That was like super annoying. My husband would love a dislike button. And I'm like, that would cause such a scene to have a dislike button would be hilarious. I'm trying to see what is the big thing. I think LinkedIn, like the feed is kind of weird to me. And I guess in a way it's good because you have the life cycle of your post is much longer. So like when you tweet, right, it has like a 24-hour cycle and then it's gone. LinkedIn, sometimes I'll see a post and I'm like 4 weeks ago. Like what? So sometimes you want to see the freshest stuff. So they're sorting and filtering and like how their interest-based stuff works isn't great. So I don't actually scroll the feed a ton. The only reason I do it now is for Notorious B2B, but I'm very like notifications based. So if I like someone, I'll set a notification to go to their content and interact. And that's kind of how I keep my group pretty focused. And then that way I'm not consuming a ton of bogus.
When you say notification, as in you like ring their bell.
Yes.
Okay, I do the same.
Yeah.
Who do you follow and learn from, and who is crushing it on LinkedIn?
Ooh. Well, I learn from a ton of people. So I could list a whole bunch all day long, but I'm going to talk about two people who I think deserve recognition for their content. They're both in the video kind of niche. So Connor Lewis is great. He does like video breakdowns of video ads, which is like kind of inception type stuff. So he's amazing. And he was most recently on the Exit 5 podcast as well. And then Adam Mola, I can't say his last name. He's going to kill me. He's actually one of my really good friends. But he's amazing too in the video space, but drops some like crazy knowledge bombs and also does a really good job of unhinged posting as well. So very entertaining, good stuff, but also like in that edutainment type field. So I'll drop two of them in terms of like new people you should follow. And then I learned from a ton of people. I'm very much in the B2B marketing space, so they may not always be like, I don't follow a lot of like the big broy, who are their names now? Luke Matthews and
Yeah,
Yasmin's. I don't follow any, like, I'm not,
I don't either.
I don't, yeah, Matt Barker and stuff. I feel like they're good. Like they teach you how to write on LinkedIn. And then all the stuff that they teach you there is actually stuff that in my little niche, people like just turn off. They call it like broetry and they don't want to read it like that. And so I used to write a lot like that. And now I'm reverting back to writing like more longer form type stuff and just writing like a regular person.
They advocate for the perfect post that like fits in the
Yes, the
very
mobile
like
view, which to
yeah.
be fair, I use a previewer that I don't log into. So that's my LinkedIn conspiracy is like, I don't use Shield. I don't use anything that hooks up to my LinkedIn profile because in the beginning I used to help one of my contacts write on LinkedIn and then it was like she got shadow banned. And the only thing she had hooked up at the time was Shield. So we took that off and then she saw a slow climb that came out. So I have these like weird things and I'm super weird about that. So I manually will pull my analytics. I will manually get links to posts. I will not use any automation to even put them in my resource hub. None of that because I'm so worried about that stuff being a reason that I would get kicked out. And then I show zero concern when I'm actually posting comments and being unhinged. I'm like, okay, if I'm going to get kicked out, at least it's for that. And it was like totally worth it. But I can't for like the hooking up analytics and automations and things like that.
I don't think they'll kick you out. They like your content too much and the ability to serve ads off of it.
Yeah. Well, there's that.
And
Yeah.
I like it, so I hope they don't. Is there anything exciting happening at the Scroll Lab or your new podcast, Notorious B2B, that you want to plug?
Well, definitely come find me on LinkedIn and Tas Bober, TAS, last name Bober, like sober. And I have that free resource hub. And if you're not like into landing pages and stuff, that's fine. If you're more around like growing on LinkedIn and consolidating your posts and stuff, you can go look at how I structured mine to like have an archive of my own stuff. It's kind of like your own, like, yeah, portfolio or like, your personal like diary and documentation. Like you're putting in all this work to create content. You should probably have it consolidated in a place where you can maybe show your children one day. My mom go, my daughter will be like, this is embarrassing. Why did you even keep this, Mom? This is the most cringe thing ever. But maybe it's kind of like a good representation of the work that you've put in. I think the way I would describe coming to LinkedIn and then seeing its impact, you're not going to see it from one post or two posts or one networking call or whatever. It's one of those things that compound over time. So it's not so much about being at the right place at the right time. It's about being at the right place for a long time. So that's kind of what I would tell people is like, just keep showing up. I don't care if I post something and it doesn't do well. Like I have heard people will like take down a post that isn't doing well. I'm like, no, leave it up there. Doja Cat model. I said what I said. It's up there. It's out in the universe. Like if it gets 30 likes or 5,000 likes, they're going to remain up there because I want people to know like, you're not going to hit it out of the park every time. And your follower count really doesn't mean anything. All that matters is the algorithm and your reach there and how you show up for your interests and other people's interests and whatever. Who knows? You can sit there and dissect the feed all you want. Sometimes shit works, sometimes shit doesn't work. Leave it all up there though. They're all learnings. They're all learnings.
I love that. Thank you for dropping that last bit of knowledge on us. Everybody go follow Tas Bober. I'll link in the show notes. And in the Substack article, we'll also link her portfolio. And until next time, let's stay connected. If you enjoyed this episode, follow Brad and Spectimer on LinkedIn for hot takes and tactical executive branding advice. For the readers in the audience, subscribe to LinkedIn Famous on Substack. And if you really loved this episode, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the podcasting platform of your choice. Until next time, stay bold, authentic, and keep on creating.